Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Sabado. If you've been here before, welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you back. And if this is your first time, my name is Sabado. This is a channel where I talk about my early retirement journey. I had the opportunity to find financial independence at 51 and retire. I left the rat race and am now sharing my story with you in hope that it A, inspires you, and B, helps give you some information that's going to help you get to where you want to be. I do understand that not everybody's going to retire early, but I do believe that we all have a responsibility to ourselves to live our best lives. And so today what I want to talk about is I want to talk about a challenge that I had over the week. This last week, many of you know, I went camping. I went in my RV. I think I got a couple videos of that are sitting up in the YouTube universe. But I went camping in my RV. My wife and I, we took a week, and it was just a safer way to go considering all the craziness. And I think if you've looked at the news, you've seen all the craziness that's happened on New Year's Eve. And so we were in our RV, in our camper, and I had the opportunity to meet a couple of people. One thing about me, I do like to meet people, and I meet people all the time. And when you're 6'8", the first thing people ask you is if you play basketball. And I had the opportunity to meet two people this week. So I want to talk to you today about the conversations that I had with them, because I think those conversations are really going to help me provide better information to you from the standpoint of my perspective and my vantage point in terms of information. And also, I think help catapult us into a new era on the channel. So on that note, let's go ahead and get into it. So I met two people. The first person I met was an individual named Todd. It's funny, I thought his name was Dan, but his name was Todd. And he's about 60 years old. He's a cancer survivor. He's retired, and just a great dude. I sat, he was across the way. I was smoking a cigar, and I went over and started talking to him, and we started chopping it up and just hanging out. And it's funny because as I talk to retired people and folks, I promise you, if you're retired and we ever meet, I'm never going to do this because I don't just do this, or lead with this. But we started talking about, if you look back at your younger years, what would you do different? And we had this whole conversation about when he was younger, he focused his time on attaining material things. And he says, looking back, if he knew what he knew now, he would have focused on some different stuff. He would have focused on less on material and more on different things. Now, in all fairness to Todd, he didn't get into too many specifics, which is good because, it wasn't that type of situation. But the key, what I really picked up from Todd is that as we age, we evolve, and we all make decisions in real time that are based on the best set of information we have at the time. And sometimes that information is good. Sometimes that information is bad. I say all that to say that right now, I know a lot of us are looking at the economy and our job situations, and we're looking at the stock market and our retirement picture. And we have different levels of hope about where the future is going to take us. But the reality is that we're all there at some point, and that's going to evolve over time. And when you get there, you're going to realize that some of the stuff that was important today isn't going to be important down the road. So the goal here is just be gentle on yourself. Understand that nobody's perfect, and we're all going to find our path. And part of my role is to help you find your path. But as we age and we evolve, we look at things different. One of the things he said was, I have a lot of nice clothes, but I don't have the retirement that I want. I don't have the things that I want. And if I knew that I was going to have cancer, then I would have focused on having more fun and doing some different things than maybe some of the stuff that I did, because I can't really do anything with those clothes. So, that was the first conversation that I had. And, let me know what you think about what are some of the things that you think that, you'd like to see in your life, and that you'd like to think that turn out. How would you like things to turn out for yourself? I mean, I talk a lot about retirement being a point in the process and not the goal of the journey. It's easy to get caught into the idea of thinking that when we retire, things stop. When we retire, we've hit the pinnacle. But that's just not the case. In fact, in the next few weeks, I'm going to be doing a day in the life episode where you can see exactly how busy I am. And truth be told, I wanted to do it tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm going to be busy as hell. I wake up in the morning. I got a doctor's appointment in the morning. Then I go walking with my buddy. Then I have to an architectural review committee meeting. And that's going to take me from about 11 o'clock in the morning all the way up until about 5:30 in the evening. And that's running straight. But I want you to see it, because I was thinking my wife and I were talking today a little bit about how, as a retiree, I thought I was just going to be chilling. Like, C to the O to the O to the L to the I to the N to the F to the R to the O to the N to the T to the I to the N. That means I'm chilling. No, but I thought I was just going to be cooling out. But that's further from the truth. There's just a lot going on. And it seems like there's a lot going on, because instead of managing the business of other people, I'm managing the business of my life. And I just got a busy life. And there's a lot of things I like to do. Some of the stuff is just taking care of business. Some of the stuff is fun. It's just a whole host of things. So that's coming down the road. And there's something else that I want to share. And I hope I don't forget to share it with you at the end, but something I think is going to help. But some of this was spurred by this next conversation I had. And let's just call the individual Rocky. And I met Rocky one of the last days that I was there. We were camping for 5 days, and I met Rocky, I think, on the third or fourth day. Or I think it was the third day. And, he's in his 40s, younger cat. He's got a couple of younger kids. And, when we got into the conversation, he's doing all the right things. He's putting money away. He's got himself a career. He's focused on making sure he raises his kids to be adults and really taking care of managing the situation. He really talked about how much he loves his wife and his family. I had the opportunity to meet his wife. She was a lovely lady. And he was doing all the right things, but it was funny, because even though he's doing the right things, he didn't really have the confidence that he'd ever be able to retire. He wants to retire. He endeavors to retire. He's doing the things to retire. He's doing the things to build the appropriate legacy, but he just doesn't have confidence. And that's where I started to understand that I think a lot of us out here, a lot of you that are watching me, feel the same way. And it's a tough feeling. But then he started to press me on some of my perspectives, because, being Sabado, the retired cat, I've now got, perspectives that I share. And again, it's never a matter of overburdening people with information. But once people learn I have a channel, once people understand that I'm retired, when people look at me and say I don't look like I'm 70 years old, and I could just say black don't crack, but I ain't going to go down that path, because that's a whole nother conversation. That'll mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, and it's not about that. But my point is we got in this conversation. He started pressing me about, what steps can he take? What are the things that he can do? How could he retire? And he really pressed me on a lot of key points. What specifically should I save in? How much should I save? How much do I need? What should my budget look like? Just a whole bunch of details. And, he really challenged me to get into his shoes and meet him where he is and really translate the path. And what hacks can I bring to the game to help him get to financial independence? And so it got me really thinking, because he forced me. It's easy for us as people to go down the path of, you got to meet people where they are, and you got to walk in another person's shoes, and you got to do all this. And look, we all talk a good game, but most of us don't do as good of a job as we may either think we do or as we talk about should be done. And so because when I speak about retirement, I talk about, I'm just a black man caught up in the mix, and I was just grinding. What's that song by Nipsey Hussle, Grinding All My Life? That's it. I was just grinding all my life. I was constantly seeking out opportunities, constantly pulling up rocks. Sometimes I'd pull up a rock and there'd be a rattlesnake. Sometimes I pull up a rock and there's gold. But it was trial and error, and there was just a lot that went on in my path. And when people ask me specifically what can they do, that's really a hard question, because it's easy for me to look at the outcome and say, here's what I did to get here. But the other challenge is he's not me. You're not me. None of these other cats on YouTube are me, and I'm not them. And so everybody's going to have a different path. And so what I try to focus on is I try to focus on the approach and the perspectives and the way to kind of get your head around the idea of getting yourself to financial independence by doing some of those right things. Because I do believe that it's more about systems and processes than it is about specific actions. If you set the process up, and so here's what I mean. If I had to worry about putting $10 a month into a checking account, some months I would do it, some months I wouldn't. But if I have an automatic system that puts money into a checking account that I'm not even thinking about and it's going to happen no matter what. Well, that's how I set up most of the pieces of my life. So I filled in the holes. And if that's something that you'd like me to go into a little bit further, I could talk to you, or I could talk about and put some content around, the whole idea of filling in the holes. But, that's really been the story of my life. And so other people are looking at me saying, well, that's great that you have all this theoretical kind of perspective, but what are the concrete things that I can do? And so sometimes it's challenging for me to go back and look at the concrete things that I did, because the concrete things that I did were just natural things. I put money away. I tried to get out of debt. I always had jobs. I finished school, just little things like that. But in terms of invest in this ETF, think about the 4% rule. Here's what your budget should look like. And again, I'm not a financial advisor, and I have a financial advisor that helped me do some of those very, very specific tactical things. But I do think that there's an approach that people have to take in order to get themselves to the place where they find financial independence and eventually retire early. And so some of the things we discussed were how the aspirations of people are different. So as an example, when you look at people like me, when you look at poor folks, when you look at folks with no money, our aspiration is to make money. So it's, I'm grinding, trying to make that dollar, trying to make some money, trying to get after it to make the dough and control my financial situation. But people with money, or people that acquire wealth, are really focused and aspire to control their time. If you think about it, and this is what I asked him, I said, think about it this way, because he said, well, the money is going to allow you the time to do the things that you need to do. I said, yeah, you're right. I said, but think about it this way. If you go to the CEO of your company and there's a problem with a customer, and your CEO's on the golf course, what's your CEO going to do? He's going to call somebody and say, hey, get this person after it, hang up the phone, and go back to playing golf. How do I know that? Because I golf with CEOs. I golf with people. I see people all the time. They do it. I've had friends that have done it. Now, all fairness, I never did that because I always wanted to be engaged in the process for my people, but most people aren't doing that. And so because they want to have the time, I got a buddy of mine who's the CEO of a major construction organization. And this cat's on trips all around the world all the time because what he values is the time with his family. And so, most of us aspire to make money because we see money as the end of itself. But what I mentioned to him is that money is the tool and should not be viewed as an outcome. Because think about it this way. Ask yourself this question. If I won the lottery, because, you guys come to me and I try to do it, but you guys come to me and ask me about what should I do to get from A to Z, or how do I retire? And I'm like, okay, fair question. But let me ask you a question now. And I'd like you to, answer in the comments, because I'm serious about this. I'm so sincere. No, I'm serious about this. But what would you do if you won the lottery? I asked the cat, a few months ago, I said, what would you do? Because they're talking about money and we get into this whole conversation. I said, well, what is it that you would do if you won the lottery? And they said, well, I'd get another job. I'm like, why would you get another job if you won $100 million? Well, because I like, because I'm working, I'm doing. I said, would you do what you do? No, you wouldn't, because you get another job. So, I guess my point is that we want something, but we don't necessarily think about what it is about that thing that we want. So, so on the other, let me give you an example as it relates to me. So when I left my last job, my boss was like, what are you going to do with all your time and all this kind of crap? Because, he was on some other stuff. So I said, what are you going to do with your time? I said, well, the work isn't done. My mission statement, my personal mission, is to uplift the human condition in any way that I can. And now this is when I was retiring. So when I was given notice, so I didn't know I was going to be doing all the stuff that I'm doing now. So I didn't talk about it. But he says to me, what are you gonna do? I said, the work isn't done. My role, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to uplift the human condition in any way that I can. And, as that evolved, outside of my occupation where I had to get up and go into work every day, I'm still trying to be a better husband. I'm still trying to be a better, just a better human being, a better friend, a better community servant. I want to take time out of my day, consistently to help people that may not have had information. And I'm constantly finding ways to find outreach. I had a buddy of mine that told me one time, he says, Saab, I always think about, he does woodworking and he works a lot with his hands. So he says to me one day, he says, I think about trying to prepare myself for the zombie apocalypse. And so when the zombie apocalypse comes, I want to have a skill. And I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. He says, well, he says, you're good with people. He says, I think you would be like the mayor. You would get people together so that way we could coordinate our efforts and move in the same direction, which is a skill. So if I have that skill, if I have the skill to have traveled around the world and provided leadership seminars, if I had the skill to lead people functions for major organizations, well, why don't I just take that out into the community? And so that's what I'm doing. So everything I'm doing, if you hear all my, you go back and you look at you look at the rest of my videos, you'll see everything I do has to do with helping other people. Now, do I think I'm some great, super cat? Nah, I'm not. But I am somebody who's committed to helping the world be better. So the work doesn't stop. And the thing is he kind of was taken aback because, again, it wasn't this tactical set of steps, because I can tell him a tactical set of steps, but he may not be in a position to do them. But his perspective is what's going to drive the outcome. And that's what I told him. If you focus on what's important, and so we talked about his kids and how he raises his son, and he wants to raise his son to be a strong man, and he wants to raise his daughter to be a strong woman, and the role that he takes there, and that if he does that, and he wants his legacy to be that he has children that are constructive members of society and doing well. And I said, okay, that's the goal. What you want to do is you want to make money so you can do that. You don't want to make money just so you can pull out $20 out of your pocket and say, yo, I got $20, son. Nah, it's not about that. You want to be able to say, look at my family. My wife is well taken care of. My kids are doing well. I'm able to help them with their education. They're contributing to the world in a way that maybe I always wanted to, or they're carrying on my legacy. But it's about the perspective, because as you start to understand what it is that you're trying to do, guess what? Now the other steps fall into place. I knew at 22 that I wanted to uplift the human condition in any way that I can. I didn't know how I was going to do that. I retired at 51 as a chief HR officer. And before that, I was the head of HR for some hospitals. So at 22, I had no idea I was going to do that. So the perspectives impact the outcome. And when you look at retirement and how retirement fits into that, retirement is just a phase. Retirement's not the destination. We don't say, I want to grow up so I can retire. Forget that. You grow up because you want to do the things you want to do. Like for me, truth be told, full transparency, I wanted to get out of the house because I hated living under somebody else's roof. Just one of those things. I'm that guy. I got things to do. I got to get out and roll, and I don't have a lot of time to try to deal with a bunch of other stuff. Enough on that. Won't go deeper. But so think about what it is that you're trying to do, and I think this is the best time of the year to do that. What is it this year that you want to do? What do you want to do this year? And so the way I would couch it as an example, each year I try to think about what I want to improve on as a person. So one year I said, I want to be a better friend. One year I want to be more compassionate. one year, and I think this year actually, I want to make sure that I attach and spend more time on the emotional connections with the people that are closest to me, because that's where things get. That's in my opinion. It's when you're somebody like me who's a hard charger and always looking to try to make it. That's the piece that gets lost, and so you build relationships around being able to solve problems and get things done. But then when other things happen, then people seek out others, and you're not able to add the kind of value that you need to add. So let me focus on those things. Let other people know that you can be masculine and still be sensitive. Let me let other people know that instead of looking at being a friend as just part and parcel to something else, that being a good friend is an objective, independent thing that a person should strive to be. Just like you want to be a good husband or a good wife or good partner or whatever it is the situation is, it's the same thing. And so so think about this year. Forget about retirement. Think about this year, and let me know. Because you'd be surprised at how many ideas I get just from reading the comments. And I know I don't solicit people to subscribe, and I know I don't solicit a bunch of people to put a bunch of stuff in the comments. And I do that because my goal isn't to create pressure. My goal isn't to sell you on an idea. My goal is just to let you know that something's possible. But in this case, I'm asking you, let me know, put it in the comments. What is it that you want to accomplish over the next year? And then figure out, what does success look like? When I was at a large organization years ago, our head person asked the question, what does success look like? And so you had all these senior people around the room. It's interesting because he said, what does success look like? And the funny thing is, number one, you had 10 people that were leading the same organization with 10 different answers. And most of the answers that were given were horrible answers. And again, that's not to judge their answers, but I have to come up with an answer to that question as opposed to me being intentional about that. So think about, for your own life, what does success look like? And it's generally not money. I always used to say that, you hire people for what they know and you fire them for who they are. Because because somebody doesn't show up to work, because somebody's disrespectful, because somebody doesn't follow the process, because somebody does something against policy, that has nothing to do with what they know. That just has to do with the decisions they choose to make under certain sets of causes and conditions. So it's not about what you know, it's about who you are. Well, I think success is about more than money, because once you start to shift that perspective away from thinking about how much money you make and getting a raise. Now don't get me wrong. Please, by no means I want you to misconstrue what I'm saying. My goal here isn't to say, well, you should just be footloose, fancy free, get some sandals and walk the streets. Don't worry about money. No, but don't let money dictate and overrule and I don't even know the word, but don't let it drive all of your decision making, because again, money is just a tool. So when you start thinking about what does success look like, think about where it is that you want to be. I've said it and I'll say it again, that my goal is that when I'm 90 years old, I want to have a story to tell about the things that I did and the experiences that I had and the people that I met and the people I had the opportunity to love that helped make the world a better place. And if the world is just a little bit better because I was in it, then when I die, I'm good. I'm good. If somebody was inspired because of something I said, I'm good. If somebody feels like, shit, if this guy can do it, I can do it, and they go out and do better than me, then I'm good. Because at the end of the day, I don't live my life for me. I live my life in service of the world around me and the universe. Now, that doesn't mean I go out, and again, I know people get this impression like, oh yeah, it's an altruistic idea. It's not about trying to, be everything to all people. I tried that. It didn't work. It had disastrous results. And so, but I know what that looks like. So when I'm 90 years old, I know, and I may not live to 90, at 88, 85, 87, shoot, at 54, if I make it to next year, if I make it to the end of this year, because my birthday's in November, if I make it to the end of this year and somebody's like, I'm inspired because of you, then I know I've moved closer to that. And that will be something I remember for the rest of my life. It's like you look at one of my first few videos, I talk about my conversation with this homeless cat named John and the advice that he gave me that changed my life. And he would never know. He still to this day has no idea what the impact of that was. But the fact is, I fundamentally attribute my path and my ability to get to where I am to him giving me that advice when I was 19 years old, when I was probably my most impressionable. So I think, how do you get there? How do you do this? It's always, what does it mean and how do you do it? That's the way my life rolls. Is, determine, take some time to figure out, what you want your legacy or your purpose to be, or what do you want when you look at your 90-year-old self? What do you want your 90-year-old self to say? And what is it that you want to do to set your 90-year-old self up to get to where you want? And write it down. See, it's easy to get caught up in this whole I want to tell my 90-year-old self this and then go out and do something completely different. Write it down. Write down what you want to do. Write down where you want to be. My personal mission statement, I started putting it in videos. Uplift the human condition any way that I can. Why? I write it down. Why do I write it down? Because it creates accountability for me. And so whatever you want, and I don't care what you want, just hold yourself accountable to getting it and then write it down and then start putting together steps. And then jot down some things, in general, it's never specific, but jot down some things that need to happen in order to get there and work backwards. So start at the end. And that was one of the things we talked about when I was talking to Rocky, is I said, don't think about it now, because it's overwhelming. It's too much. There's a lot going on and the world is complicated and we live in an expensive place. But start backwards. You want your kids to be successful members of society and contribute to society and to be taken. You want your wife to be taken. You jot that down and then work backwards. What are the things that I'm going to do to get there? And it doesn't have to be a lot. And it's funny because, we used to make this joke that how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Ha ha, I know, Captain Cliche here. But what I would do is I would write things down and I would just make little small baby steps. In fact, I don't know, many people don't know this, but I mentioned it in another video. So, I guess the rest of the world knows it, but I got into some trouble when I was a freshman in high school and I didn't want to end up going to jail. And so I had to get my grades up. And so what I did is, and I wasn't academic. And so I started putting in specific steps that allowed me and set me up to get to where it is I wanted to be. So, and then eventually one thing built on another, built on another, built on another. Next thing you know, some of those same cats I was getting in trouble with, I was telling them, look, I'm graduating from college. And they're like, what? And I said, yeah, just because I took baby steps. So start, work backwards and think about the steps in terms of things you can do now. What can you do now? I got a buddy of mine who's like, I want to retire. I want to start a business. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Where's the money going to come from? Well, I don't have the money yet. Okay, so you can't do that yet. So how are you going to get the money? I think any idea is a good idea as long as you can do it and it's for the right reasons. So let's be clear about that. I'm going to put that out there in the universe. I think every idea is a good idea. It's just sometimes people need a better plan. But what are those baby steps that are going to move you in that direction? And then commit to whatever it is, commit to it in your daily life. And this is where it gets tricky, because if you try too hard to do too much, then you'll do it. Now, and I challenge you, and please put this in the comments if you do get it, but think about this. If you go to the gym, and let's say it's January, first week of January, you go to the gym, you go to Planet Fitness, you go to Nautilus. I don't even know if they have Nautilus, 24-hour fitness, whatever. So you go to the gym, everybody and their mother's in there, right? Go back in March and see how many of those same people were in there. Why? Because everybody wanted to be, Arnold Schwarzenegger in there trying to do, everyone wanted to be The Rock. And they realized that The Rock had been doing that for 50 years. or 30 years. So that's why he's so big and muscular and all that. But it's a bunch of baby steps, because he was a little guy at some point, just like the rest of us are out of shape. And so, but over time, so if you bite off more than you can chew, then you're usually just going to give up. You're not going to get to where it is. So find things that you could do in your daily life that are going to get you there. If you're looking at YouTube, one of the things, as an example, I'll give you a prime example. One of the things I do is I try to find YouTube videos that I look at on my personal time. Well, I guess it's all my personal time, but I try to find videos that talk about perspectives around of the world. So I think I mentioned another video. I've been kind of delving into like Confucius. I've been jumping into a little bit of Marcus Aurelius and some of these other cats, just to get some perspectives on the world, because I think they can. I'm not going down the path of, and I'm not a religious person or any of that, but I try to go down the path of just understanding the world and having a more enlightened perspective of the world. And I try to do that every day for just a little bit, as opposed to watching Minecraft videos and stuff like that. And don't fall in the trap. And yes, this is a trap. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. One of the mistakes I made early on is I tried to keep up with the Joneses. Somebody got a new car, I got a new car. Somebody bought some new clothes, I bought some new clothes. Somebody went out and did something, I had to go do it. And what ended up happening was, it was cool because I was like part of the group. I was cool. I was part of the club, but I was broke and I wasn't happy because it wasn't my perspective. It wasn't my thing. It wasn't my shtick, as they say. So, don't try to be like others. Be like yourself. As I used to tell people, the best you can ever be in the world. The best you can ever be in the world is a second-rate me, but you can always be a first-rate you. So focus on being a first-rate you. It's even like these channels, these YouTube channels. There's all these people on YouTube that are saying, this is how you make a YouTube channel. There's some technical pieces that work, but guess what? There's only one Sabado. Well, there may be a bunch of Sabados. If there's more, then let me know, and I don't want to take any credit from you. But there's only one me. And I think I do me pretty well. I may not do a good you. I may not do a good my wife, but I could do me pretty well. And then just focus on your path. Focus on where it is you're trying to go. Be relentless in your pursuit of what it is that you want to do. Because if it's important enough for you to put a goal around it, if it's important enough for you to put time around it, because again, remember, time is the only non-renewable resource that we have. If think about, if it's worth focusing your time, your non-renewable resource on, then it's worth, it's worth you taking time out of your day, every day, for even if it's 10 minutes to get to that place. And then and don't beat yourself up if, when you start going down this path, retirement is not a part of it. The reality is there are realities in the world that that aren't conducive. And there's some people that you may be doing jobs that want to take you to 90 years old and you want to keep doing it. But, and that's fine. Don't beat yourself up about it. Don't look at me and don't say, well, Sabado did it, so I want to do it. No, think about, live your life, live your path. And if you want to talk about it with me, or you got questions for me, I think I have my email address in the description of my site description, or my page description. If it's not, let me know and I'll put it in there. Leave it in the comments and I'll put it in there. But send me an email. I'll tell you. I've always said that if you ask me a question, it's always going to be, if I care enough about you to answer the question, it's always going to be the truth. And you're all my friends. We're all here together. So I'm pouring my life into you, so you can live your best life and live the best that you can for you and meet your goals and be inspired to do that. So the goal isn't to retire. The goal is to live your life with purpose and meaning. So again, that's why I always say that it's not about trying to retire. I don't expect everybody to retire, but if you're living your best life, then guess what? I admire you, because isn't that really what it's all about? So and then the last thing I'll say on this is that money is the tool. So yeah, money helps you buy stuff, but money's the tool, not and retirement's the phase. and neither of those are the outcomes. And so the outcome is, where is it that you want to be, and how do you get there? And when you're 90 years old, what's the story you want to tell? So now the one thing I did mention, and I know we're going a little bit over time because there was a lot here. It was meaty, and if it was too long, I apologize. But I thought it was really important because these conversations that I had were really important. But one of the things I'm thinking about, and I really want to know your thoughts. If you're here at this point in the video, then I think you've bought into and understand that this is a real deal Holyfield, and so I'm not going anywhere, and I'm trying to figure out ways to continue to create new value by working together. But the thing I'm working on, and I'm trying to build, and I'm soliciting some of you out there, if you want to be part of this, is I'm looking at putting together what's called the Perspective Collective. And what I want to do is, there's a bunch of YouTubers and a bunch of people out there that are doing a bunch of different things that when I was talking to Rocky, I realized that there's a whole bunch of people that come from a different vantage point, and there's a whole bunch of people that come from a vantage point that, as much as I feel like I relate and I understand and I can explain it, that I can't, and I just don't know. And sometimes I don't know what I don't know. And I'm expressing a vulnerability here. I mean, I think I have a body of knowledge, and I know a lot of stuff, and I'm here, but there are continually effective ways to get a message across. And so what I want to do is try to get what I call the Perspective Collective together, where we can have maybe a monthly or a weekly. I haven't figured out the details because I want to get the members, and I have a couple of people that I have in mind, but that I can bring in that will be able to participate maybe in a podcast as a panelist, as an ongoing panelist, or a discussion group that then comes out onto this platform, YouTube, because again, billions of people watch it, but can help people understand different things and gain perspective on success. Because I spent my whole life reading the John Maxwell's and the Stephen Covey's and all of that about success, and that's all cool and everything, but I want to learn. I think people really want to learn from real people, and I want to find real people out there that are willing to share their stories and their experience, and to get into some real conversations. I know there's some conversation to be had. I just need to have it, and I just don't. I've solicited the people that I know, and as an example, one of the guys that I know had gotten laid off, was having a difficult time finding a job, went and started his own business, because his whole idea is that money could be made at other places, and so let me take my skills and flip those into something I do. So he started a equipment rental business, and is doing great. So somebody like that, it's just little things. There's another guy I know that I've recently become acquainted with, and he really does a nice job of breaking down tactical steps of things people can do. And he goes out into the community, and he talks to people. He talks to young people that have had extraordinary results and so on. But his whole thing is, he started off early with investing, and then lost a bunch of money, and then went back into investing, but was more methodical about it, and now is incredibly successful. So again, I think there's people that can learn from that. I have another buddy of mine that, not buddy, but another guy I know that, he hit rock bottom, and he talks about it, and he hit rock bottom about 14 years ago, turned it around, and became one of the most successful businesses in my town. So again, I want to, but let me know if you think that is something that would be of value to you, because if it is, or if you'd like to participate as part of that, I want to keep the group, fairly controlled. I don't want to get 1 million people in there, but if we can get a few people in and maybe have a monthly call just to discuss topics, but it's like a book group for life, I think that'd be fantastic. So if that's something that you'd be interested in either participating in, or something that you think would be valuable, then let me know, because I'm working on it, and it'll just let me know where you are with that. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. If you found this information useful or valuable in any way, please feel free to subscribe, share it with your friends. But again, on that note, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.